Hey, what's up, world, YouTube, internet, people, somebody, anybody watching this video? How's it going? I thought I'd make this video real quick because I like to follow certain popular public figures, speakers, and people that have been outspoken uh, online regarding religion, Christianity, Jesus, the cross, salvation, etc. And the other day I was listening to an interview with Joe Rogan and Jordan Peterson. And yeah, I listened to a lot of Joe Rogan. I started out being a huge Joe Rogan fan, like from the very first episode. I sat at work. I used to work in a cubicle, and I used to sit there just day in and day out, and that podcast would just get me through some of the hard days at work with those entertaining conversations. Sometimes often intellectual, enlightening. So thank you for that, Rogan. He often has really interesting guests on, But these days it has taken a little bit of a turn, I would think. Like in the beginning, the direction of the podcast seemed very much more open and just kind of a free, genuine search of truth and knowledge, and people really open to antithetical ideas, concepts, conspiracies, things like that. And over time, I feel like the Joe Rogan podcast has become very much more constrained and more definitive in his assessments about things like religion, space, science, esoteric wisdom, the unseen world, life after death, all these kind of concepts. I feel like it's been very, and especially conspiracy theories, as we've seen from all the arguments he's been having with even some of his close friends about conspiracy theories. The show's just taken a different kind of turn from being this fun, open exploration and discussion about what truth is, and it's turned into this very like, hey, don't talk about that, that's stupid, let's only talk about these types of new age concepts and not embrace any of these old concepts, these ancient concepts that have been around for a very long time, and that seem to influence a lot of people who have varying degrees of intellect all across the board, right? From someone who's as ignorant as I am to a professor at Harvard. We got Christians covering the full spectrum. So, you have to give some credence to the fact that really smart and successful people put faith in Christianity and don't think it's like some kind of voodoo myth from ancient days that we've evolved past, So in this particular conversation with Professor Jordan Peterson, who I believe is a professor of psychology at the University of Toronto, has been outspoken on issues concerning gender equality. He's been on the podcast a few times, I think, and he also did a series of lectures on the Bible and on Christianity and kind of trying to unpack, I guess, from a clinical standpoint or a psychological standpoint, what the stories in the Bible are, what they mean, or how they're supposed to be interpreted. And it's a very interesting series, but it's funny because I really think it has a harmful effect on believers and unbelievers alike, because what he's doing is that he has such credibility in the academic realm that at this point, and such influence based on his rising celebrity, that at this point a lot of the things that he says, whether they're true or not or really verified, we don't know. The public at large, the general person, the layman, they don't know how widely debated certain issues regarding the Bible are or not. Certain issues regarding, the nature of the world, mankind, and salvation. We're not privy to all of the discussion that's gone on in the academic world concerning theology and science and religion and all these types of things, right? So when this guy comes along and he's like the popular guru of our time, the Alan Watts of the day, if you will, it can be really, it can have a pernicious effect of just kind of like, there's a pernicious quality to just him getting online and talking and not, cushioning his remarks with, letting people know that, hey, this is just my opinion. This is not empirical truth. This is just how I'm interpreting it. This is a widely debated topic. You can look it up. There are lots of people that talk about this who are just as smart, if not smarter than I am, and look into that too. Don't just take what I'm saying here. But he has a way of talking that he comports himself in a way as like, this is truth, this is what it is. And he's talking about the Bible as if it's like mythological, as if it's something that like I said, that we've evolved past. And the only reason the Bible's been relevant for the last 3,000 years is because it is the truth, because it is the word of the being in which created us and knows us. And that's why it's still relevant today, and why people still follow it and look at it and are inspired by it, because it's not some antiquated book, which is why you don't read or certain books which are ancient tombs, the Egyptian Book of the Dead, or who knows what other cultural, spiritual tombs are out there that we just don't pay any attention to, because it's obviously something that was man-made. It was a man-made God, or a man-made wisdom, or a borrowed wisdom from something else. But when it comes to Christianity, it stood the test of time. It stood up against tests of scrutiny ad nauseum, and it's still here, So I think that really has to be taken into account when we're listening to anybody, no matter what level of intellect they're at. I don't care if they're super genius. If they're telling you the Bible's a myth, they have not done their research. They have not completed their studies. They are not done seeking what they shall find. Let me tell you that. So going back to the conversation that I'm here to comment on, they were talking about the verse in Matthew 5:5, I believe, which is the meek shall inherit the earth, right? And this has always kind of perplexed people because, right, the language meek, it's kind of outdated. We don't use that word anymore. You don't hear it in movies. You don't hear it spoken or used. So you're really not used to the vernacular. So it takes some digging. Take some discussion, maybe talking to some other people who are mentors in the faith to get an idea of what this might actually mean, how to interpret it correctly. So I thought Jordan Peterson did a brilliant job of explaining that, or discovering that the phrase, the meek shall inherit the earth, does not mean like weak people are going to inherit the earth, or little passive, humble people or who don't ever do anything are going to inherit the earth. But meekness is actually those who have the capability, right, to defend, or to those who have the strength to do something in the face of oppression, and in light of knowing that the revenger rests in heaven, that the true avenger, the God who is greater than everyone, who they stand in the presence of and are continually humbled by, they know that they can act with humility because there's something greater than them. And when somebody offends them, they choose not to act out in violence or in vengeance, but instead they act out in love. And we see this when we have like a benevolent leader, or a lot of people had great dads growing up, big strong. Some of you might have had big strong dads who were just, who didn't use that strength and that imposing force to get what they wanted out of you. They're big and strong and they got muscles and they can kick anybody's butt, but they were gentle and they were thoughtful and respectful. And they didn't have to use that force. They certainly could. And maybe at some point in their life you saw it. You saw that time your dad got so mad, you're like, whoa, don't want to piss that guy off again. Or you saw your mentor, your coach, your older brother, whomever it might have been that the Lord put in your life to exemplify, this quality to you. Because I believe all of us have witnessed a person of meekness, of true humility. True humility is not speaking softly and letting other people go first in line. True humility is... a great example was Joe Rogan Podcast number 699 with Donald Cowboy Cerrone, professional UFC fighter, great fighter, right? Legit, veteran. In my book, a Hall of Famer of the sport, a pioneer of the sport. So Donald Cowboy Cerrone was telling a story about how he was at the grocery store with his girlfriend, and he got into an altercation with a couple guys. One of the guys comes up to him and punches him in the face. Now, you didn't just realize that you punched a professional UFC fighter in the face who could probably murder you in under 30 seconds. And what was Cerrone's reaction? Was it to, oh, now you're going to get it? Because he was in it. He had every right to, legally. He was assaulted. He could have said, I was threatened. I'm protecting my girlfriend. This guy hit me. I got my hands full of groceries. There's not, so I have every right to retaliate against this attacker. I happen to be a skilled individual, so I'm just going to do what I do and 5-piece combo that guy, and you know what I mean, and ruin his whole situation. Maybe send him to the hospital. Who knows? But he didn't do that. Instead, he controlled himself and he said, hey man, I'm not going to take two. You got that one, but I'm not taking two. So you make your mind up right now. Either walk away. I don't want to do this. Even having the ability to crush the guy, he chose to be humble. That is true humility. That is meekness. When you have the power to crush your offender, but you leave it up to God, because you have faith that he will avenge you, because you trust in the promise that he's giving you through his word, that he will bring glory to himself through you in your life. And if you trust him and if you follow his ways and you stop acting out of vengeance and anger and wanting to control everything and wanting to bend the universe to your will and bend life to your will and put up walls around you so you never have to feel the cold and you never have to suffer and you never have to feel any pain, that is not Christianity. Christianity is going through the suffering and understanding that there's a purpose in that to strengthen you and to glorify God and to make his power seen through that meekness and to witness to other people, just like Cerrone did in that moment, to say, hey, there's a better way. There's a better way and a stronger way than just going around and exerting your will, imposing your will on people. And Peterson followed up with a comment, even though his exegesis of that verse was pretty astute, and he rightfully pointed it out to Joe Rogan, the follow-up discourse where he said, make yourself a monster and then learn to be self-controlled, I completely disagreed with. It's an absurd concept, and it's completely antithetical to Christianity to think of, to make yourself a monster and then learn self-control. Well, what if you never learn the self-control? Then you're just a monster. Then you're just left with your bad habits. I mean, you're left in the state you began in my opinion. And in light of what the Bible teaches us, we already are monsters. We're already in a fallen world. We're already hostile towards God, as it says in Romans 1:18, I believe. Let me confirm that, because sometimes I get my scripture mixed up. No, I was right. All right. So Romans 1:18 says, the wrath of God is being revealed from heaven against all the godlessness and wickedness of people who suppress the truth by their wickedness. So to think that, this verse is saying the wrath of God is being revealed from heaven because we suppress truth by doing wicked acts. So to say, become a monster and then find salvation, it really puts you in a tremendous amount of grave danger. What the Bible is teaching is that you are already a monster, and you're trying to live the world according to your own means and resource and faculties, and that's not going to serve you well. We can look at examples of people around the world who are rich, famous, in shape. Are they all enlightened? Do they walk on water? Do they have the answers that we're all looking for? Or are they just people? Are they just still fallible people making mistakes? And even as we learn about some of these people behind closed doors, we learn their true nature. Right? Whoa, I didn't know that guy was like that. Ugh. Right? You hear about this in the Hollywood scandals recently. Oh, wow, these actors and entertainers, they put one face on the television, but behind closed doors, they really got a whole other thing going on. So that's the evidence, right? That's the evidence of that. You put me in a certain situation and I don't know what I might be capable of. You put me in a room full of strippers and drugs and I might do something I ought not be doing. I probably ought not be in that room in the first place. Tempting myself and thinking that I can overcome that type of temptation without the Spirit of God in me. And I don't know about you, but I've lived my life up to this point, and I've not been able to overcome those moments when I was most vulnerable, and I woke up the next day feeling like, man, they got me. What did I do last night? I shouldn't have had that last drink. I shouldn't have dropped that last thing. I don't think I should go to these anymore. And I think until a lot of people, they continually have to just hit their head on the floor. They just have to fall flat on their face so many times until they come to the understanding of God and they come to true humility in the presence of God. But I'm getting way off on a tangent in that. And I just wanted to end the video here because I think I've made my point. And thanks for watching. And I want to say, yes, the meek shall inherit the earth. But don't become a monster. Turn away from the sin that's brooding in you already and give your life to Jesus Christ. I'll have more videos on this in the future. But thanks for watching. Have a great day, guys.